begin our regular session with a public hearing on two proposed local laws. The first one we're going to talk about is local law number 2. We have a moratorium in effect now that went in about 18 months ago to prohibit cryptocurrency, blockchain, or other data mining operations. As you know, these are what's caused Plattsburgh electric rates to go through the roof 2 or 3 years ago. And we put a moratorium in following theirs, and it's been pretty successful blocking. A couple snuck in when we didn't know about them. They hooked up before we found out. But it stopped a couple of new ones coming in that wanted some big operations that would have really adversely impacted our village electric rates. So what the board's considering doing tonight is extending this into a permanent local law prohibiting these type of operations in the village. So I guess it's been advertised in the village office, and copies of the law have been down there. Basically, it's just the law that we already have as a memorandum, a moratorium, a moratorium. We're just going to convert that into a permanent law. So if anyone would wish to address the board about this topic at this time, you may identify yourself and do so. Yes.
Ron Block, Mr. Mayor, you know me, and I support your pushing this issue to a local law. This is my personal opinion on it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I believe, were you on the board when we put the moratorium in?
I was.
Yeah, we did a lot of research on it, and that being the case, the board all has a copy of this. Okay, this will be, I'll make a motion to add local law adding chapter 58 to the village code of the village Rouses Point, cryptocurrency and data mining. And it lists the prohibitions on commercial cryptocurrency and blockchain or similar data mining operations. Board of Trustees, Village Rouses Point does hereby ordain and enact Village Rouses Point Local Law 2-2019 on commercial cryptocurrency and blockchain or similar data mining operations in the Village Rouses Point. This law shall prohibit applications or proceedings or the issuance of approvals or permits for commercial cryptocurrency and blockchain or similar data mining operations in the Village Rouses Point. And I move that to the floor for a second.
I'll second that.
Okay, a motion and a second. Is there any discussion from the board?
No.
Okay, we need a roll call vote on that? Yeah. I'll take a roll call vote. Trustee Arnold?
Aye.
Trustee Dart?
Aye.
Trustee Menard?
Aye.
And Trustee Gadway?
Aye.
The mayor votes aye. Okay, the second one is, this is a little more complex, and I think we're going to be discussing it more tonight than acting on it, but we'll see. This is on electric boilers. And as best I can tell through research, the village had a village resolution in 2006 prohibiting new electric boilers. And then in 2008, for some reason, they did a 1-year moratorium on electric boilers. And then that expired, that provision. Some people, apparently electric boiler technology has evolved a lot in the last 10 years. And in some cases, they're more efficient. It's one of the more efficient ways to heat in certain applications. So what we're proposing, I believe, but I want comment from the public, is we want to extend the moratorium for an additional year. But I think we can wait till the next meeting to vote on that. But I'd like to get input from the public at this point, at this time. I know we have an applicant that's done quite a bit of research on this up at the development up at the Pfizer class there. They're putting two of the buildings back in service, and they'll be back on the tax rolls and occupied within a few months. Hopefully, they're hooking up water to them now. We had a tour tonight, and their cost analysis that they did, and an energy analysis, is that that was the best way to go energy-wise. Formerly, as you know, or maybe don't know, but the entire plant complex was heated from a central heating plant. Originally it used oil, then they converted it to natural gas from NYSEG, and that's all been removed. So what they want to do is they want to get these buildings as standalone buildings with their own power source, or their own heating source, and their own water and everything, servicing them like any other house or building in the community. And then as they build additional buildings, and it looks like there's going to be a lot of additional buildings over the next 10 years or so, they will each have their own power source. They have or can have natural gas on the site. They have electricity on the site now, and our code enforcement officers are looking into their they haven't submitted their complete package yet, but of their insulation. There are factors in how energy efficient the buildings are. Apparently they've been upgraded significantly in the last 10 years or so. The guy that was down in John, was that the guy?
Yes.
He was saying how they changed the roof and they put 3 more layers of insulation on it in the last few years. And they've added more to the sides and anything. So our code officers will be going over their actual blueprints and plans and seeing if they're eligible for this. So this moratorium, one way or the other, probably won't affect that. That has to be addressed in a different way. We have to rescind a previous thing for them if they're gonna do this. But this, tonight, the public hearing is, should we go forth with this moratorium on electric boilers? And what I'm sort of thinking now is that we need to have maybe a temporary moratorium to give us a chance to research the technology improvements in electric boilers and see if they're now feasible to put into homes or businesses, as long as they meet our energy insulation standards. In other words, you can't put electric heat in anything in the village anyway unless it meets a certain R value, because otherwise the heat's just going out the window and using up a lot of electricity. So this is going to be an issue that we have to face, so we need to have clearer delineations in our village code for future applicants. So at this time, I'll open the meeting to the public for comment on this issue, which is electric boiler moratoriums. Anyone? Yes?
Mr. Ron Walk, can the board have the applicants provide maybe a 10-year estimation of the electric usage requirements that they would use if they were all electric boilers? And then, so we can determine if that's, how much our village rates, residential rates would rise to cover that additional required electricity to heat these buildings.
Well, I think they have a projection, or we could include that in the law, in the regulations. The proposal that they have up there, I think, was a 1-year or 2-year projection on what their anticipated electric usage would be. And it's significantly less than what Pfizer was using for the same building at the time. But that's something, a factor that should probably be into this code, was electric projection.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Everett Larson. Is the moratorium for industrial applications, or any size application?
It's for any size application, but if you already have an electric boiler, you're grandfathered in, and if you have to replace it, you can replace it. Like, we're doing that at the library right now. It had an electric boiler, we're putting in a much more efficient and effective electric boiler system now.
Yeah.
I don't know, is it on yet?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's on,
Oh,
in the nick of time.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else?
I'd just like to ask Mr. Helke, how do you think an electric boiler would affect the village in building that size?
you know, you're gonna use
1 megawatt.
almost a megawatt of power.
Yep.
That's about, quite a bit of load.
As much as Champlain Plastics.
We really can't, you know, we can't really, you know, give a customer's name out, but, it would be a very large, usage. And when we hit a higher stamp on a demand on the incoming village, we have to pass that on also, so. We wanna,
I agree.
Yes, Ron?
Can Mr. Pelkey expound, is that 1 megawatt per building, or for both those buildings, or?
they talked about 1 megawatt for building 25.
So theoretically, then, if
That
you
was
had
for
10
both
buildings that
buildings.
size, that'd be 10 megawatts, which I would guess that would dramatically spike the electric rates for the village of Rouse's Point, where we all better put in wood stoves. And why, if you got natural gas right there, just put natural gas boilers in?
Anyone else? Okay, the board have any comments on this?
If we go along with this, I don't know if, I think a year is too much. I think we got our information together. I think 6 months would be proper.
Yeah, I was just thinking along those
Because
lines
if we wind
too.
up going with this, we certainly don't want to inhibit any business that wants to locate in the village, or them, or these people that are already established there, from coming here or doing what is the best thing.
I agree.
So 6 months,
Yeah.
because this says 1 year in here.
Well, that's what originally was, because most of the
So-
moratoriums are 1 year or 2 years, but
So if we pass this law, let me get this straight. So they can't put the boiler in, or we're gonna allow them to put the boiler in for 6 months, or?
no, it wouldn't affect them. That's a permit that's in progress. You know, you can't make a law like to get somebody like that, but theirs needs to be negotiated. We told them this afternoon, we had both code enforcement officers there, and I told them very specifically that they had to meet the standards for everything.
Energy.
Right, Ben?
For energy and stuff.
For energy,
Plus the R value of the building and
all that stuff. They have to meet that to do this.
I still think that's too much of a load. I think we need to
There's natural gas
seek natural gas. I understand that they wanna start it up, and we spoke with Chris Brown the other day, and I told him, I have no problem granting you an extension, but I don't wanna see electric boilers in there. I don't mind if they use electricity to heat the building for 6 months or a year till they get their,
Well, they're supposed to get a
Natural
load
gas.
data, they're supposed to have a load data for the code enforcement officer, right, Mr. Cooper?
Yes,
So,
the engineer's working it up now, it's energy envelope, to see how it's gonna work.
so, I like to see the load data before I make up my mind on this.
yeah, definitely, I mean,
Just remember, Aris was drawing 10 megs of power before.
grand, I agree.
That whole plant though.
But you got a whole plant, and like you said, if that's one building, if you put 10 of those buildings up, 15 of those buildings up, now we're way over. And can we get that much?
Never.
You know, we don't know if we can get that much back from the power authority.
Well, at one time, we were going, what, 26 megs?
Go ahead, Brent.
In order to get more hydropower from the power authority, you would have to produce 50 jobs per half a megawatt. For every half a megawatt, you gotta show 50 jobs that they'll give you some more hydropower for. So it's called jobs for power, we would have to petition them for that. So if it's, you know, manufacturing, well, then you might have a chance to get more
Well,
of
if
the
it's
cheaper
warehousing
hydropower.
like that building is, there's probably not gonna be 50 people, or not gonna be 100 people there for that 1 meg, or 1 megawatt. Just a discussion, I mean,
I would say probably the best thing to do with this is table this till the next board meeting. And
yeah,
if
so
we
we
go
get some
through,
more
if we
figures.
do it,
and,
I agree with trustee Dart, it should be a 6-month moratorium till we can gather data and make sure what we wanna tailor this tighter. But in the meantime, I think we should probably table it for till the next board meeting and get some more information from Pfizer on this, or I'd say Pfizer, but it's not CRS now.
Yeah, CRS. Yeah, I'm in favor of tabling it for now until we get more information.
Yeah, I'll tell you something.
Okay, I got a motion from trustee Bernard to table this for 2 weeks for the
Yes.
next board meeting, a second from trustee Arnold. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Now, the next thing we have, open the meeting to the public. The public may address the board on any topic at this time, and you'll also have a second chance at the end of the meeting. Yes, sir.
Andrew Mitzley, 84 Maple Street, here in Rouses Point. I gave you guys copies, I appreciate you taking the time to do this. I received this in the mail just on Saturday afternoon. I gave Mr. Godway, or Trustee Godway, pictures of my house, if you don't know where I live, with my new fence. I originally put this, started putting up the fence on the 27th of September, and I put it exactly 6 inches off from the sidewalk. I was instructed by Mr. Cooper that I needed it further off. I said, nowhere does it show that I need it to be further off. He finally, after going back and forth, he said, okay, can you please put it at 12 inches from the sidewalk? And that way I can get the village crews off my back and we're all happy. I said, okay, I'll go 12 inches, but I don't wanna hear any more about this. I actually had it at 12 1/4 inches. Then I just completed all of the fence posts, as you can see, across the front. I do have a witness, Carolyn Tripany, from 85 Maple Street, which was standing there when he told me, yes, put it at 12 inches. Since then, I've cut those posts and placed them, and I just received this stating that I am now against code. And for the reasoning, it says for the traffic hazards and sight lines. If you see that, there is no reason this is any kind of traffic hazard or affecting any sight lines of motor vehicles. I don't see this pertaining to this section. Yes, it's highlighted for fences and all that, but that pertains, if I'm not mistaken, to like curbs or when you're coming up to a stop sign, being able to see your sight, that's a sight line. I was going to address this further to Mr. Cooper, just like the last paragraph, and I don't mean to bring this upon you during this meeting, because you got bigger things to deal with. However, he's already told me, and in doing so, gives me permission to put that fence up at the 12-inch mark. I don't understand why I'm getting this thing that's saying that I now need to move it 3 feet from the sidewalk.
Well, the thing of it is, if the sidewalk plow is going down through there and they got a lot of snow on the sidewalk, and the sidewalk plow goes off the sidewalk and hits your fence, knocks your fence down, we gotta repair it.
I understand
That's
that.
why it's supposed to be 3 feet off the sidewalk.
I understand. I've also plowed both sides of those for the last 10 years. I've never not been able to beat the plow on plowing that sidewalk. And also, there's 15 fences directly on the sidewalk in the village of Rouses Point. I also have in written, if need be, I would like to put these into, there's 48 violations per the same code that I'll put in and submit into writing here if you need me to do that. That is all with that same law and ruling. Including blind sight of a stop sign here in Rouses Point. There's many violations. I need to stop, I put up that because I have a condition with the PTSD from the military. People cut across my lawn all the time, keep me up all the time going through the school. I needed to be able to keep them off my property. That's why I started this. I don't think it's an eyesore. I maintain my properties. in the same code that's for the sidewalks, you know, it says all brush and everything. So that means everybody that has grass in the cracks should be getting a citation. I didn't go through all those, but I'd be glad to take a walk through all of Ross's Point and give you every sidewalk that has grass. I don't wanna be a pain in the butt, but if you want me to do that, I will be glad to help you guys. But when I get permission from the code officer to put the fence at 12 inches, I expect I would have not had any issue, but he drew this up the same day he gave me permission to do it. I just received it after I completed the front of my fence. Now, if I have to move that fence back 3 feet, that's 10 fence posts I gotta rebuy because I already pre-cut them. And doing so, that I'm out $130+ because they're $13 and change a pole. I don't wanna be having to redo and redo and redo. I just wanna find out what I need to do. When somebody gives me permission to put it at 12 inches from the village, that's a code officer, I should be able to do it. I should not get a citation on the same day, written up on the same day, wait till my whole fence is put in, and then receive it. I wouldn't have cut those posts.
Hey,
Thank you.
We're fortunate tonight, thank you, we're fortunate tonight, our code officer is present. Mr. Cooper, would you care to address this?
The code is the way it's written. I said he had it right tight to the sidewalk. I'm not gonna get into this. This is a legal issue, we're discussing in court.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm Carolyn Trippney. I live at 85 Maple. I was present when the code officer came up to Andrew and said, you must move these poles away from the sidewalk. He did indicate 12 inches. And that I can attest to. At that point, Andrew and I moved the posts all the way down through to the 12¼ inches to make sure that we were off. Is that not correct, sir?
After I talked to yourself and Mr. Vincent, I went down and checked the code.
Did
I
you
don't
come
carry-
back?
No, I do not, well, that was after 4 o'clock. I had other things to do that day. I don't discuss, I don't carry the code book in my pocket. I
Did
told
you
him he
not-
had to leave room for our equipment to bypass his property and plow snow.
Did you not say 12
I said at
inches?
least 12 inches, but when I went down and checked on it, did anybody remember what the exact law is on something? After I checked on it, I realized he was in violation, and that's the way I wrote it up.
We were around at 4 o'clock, still working on fences. You could have stopped, correct, sir?
Well, I just checked it and I left because I was done for the day.
Oh, okay, well,
Are those set in the ground?
yes,
Yes.
they are.
Drilled holes
They
to
are.
put them in?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Sir, we were going by what the code officer said
Right,
to
I
us
understand that.
at that point.
Okay. Okay, we'll discuss this later and we'll get back to you, okay? Within a day or two.
I appreciate it, and if you do want all the other violations, I'd be
No,
glad
that's-
to show you those
that's
as
okay.
well.
I understand that.
And there is, like I said, there is 15, there's 15 fences on the same guidelines
And I
as mine.
also noticed that your type of a fence is the kind that snow could get through it.
It's a split rail, wide open, yes, and there's no obstruction versus there's a lot with picket
As opposed
fence
to like
and
a
all that.
stockade fence or picket fence or something, yeah. Anyway,
Thank you for your time.
you're welcome. Anyone else from the village wish to address the board? Okay, I'll close the meeting to the public at this time. We have no minutes from the previous meeting, but we have bills. Is there any additions or deletions to bills?
No.
No? Board have any comments on the bills?
Make a motion, we pay the bills as written.
All in favor?
Aye.
Correspondence, is there any correspondence tonight? Okay, I have an update. I had a meeting with Barton and Judas about 2 weeks ago, I believe it was. And they went over the initial plan, that they presented. The board has copies of all this. They've done some preliminary estimates and looking at our water plant. This is Barton LaJuice for the public's information. We're looking in, as you know, we're looking into replacing our water plant, which is aging and is on its very last legs. And we've issued a contract with an engineering firm named Barton and LaJuice, and they've assigned an engineer, civil engineer to it, Jason Ballard. And he has been doing preliminary site plans and different options that we have for water. And of the things that we told them we were interested in, that they were supposed to look into, and they did, was the location of it, new site, existing site, connection to Champlain water or other locations. And then the proposed growth over the next 20 years. And I indicated to them that we wanted this scaled for 1 million gallons per day. We're currently using about 300,000 to 400,000 gallons per day because the plant is closed. But our water tower is sized, it's 1.5 million, and the wastewater treatment plant is 1 million gallons per day capacity. So we want to have the water plant about the same size as those. One of the things that the board was considering was, can we do this in increments, like a modular system? Like set it up for, say, 500,000 gallons now, but have the ability to expand relatively easily to 1 million gallons or whatever we need in the future. And that way we can spread the cost over a little longer time and still meet the needs for the village. So they've been directed to consider that in any plan that they offer us, is incremental growth to 1 million gallons. Or just start at 1 million gallons, and that's expensive. So part of the things that they had was, they gave us 2 or 3 different options. Construction of site evaluations, construction at the existing site, which would be very difficult to do because they couldn't put the plant right where it is. They'd have to put it like in a parking lot behind the village office and build it there and then tear the other one down. That just wasn't really feasible. And then another thing would be adjacent to the water tank, the new water tower, which looks good. There's 7 acres up there that we're in negotiations to have donated to the village from ERS. And then they had a couple alternatives. They had treatment alternatives. They had membrane microfiltration, continuous backwall filters, package treatment plant, sand filters, different ideas, and they're still working on that. They just got the water usage and flow rates from our water plant recently, like in the last couple of days, so they need that to go further. They also investigated purchasing water from the village of Champlain, and there's a number of problems with that, but the big one is that they have a capacity of 1.1 million gallons per day for their whole plant. They're using about 0.2 million, or 200,000 of that, so they couldn't meet our 1 million gallon thing at any rate. And there's some other problems with it too, but, and they calculated the fees. You know, like the only advantage of doing it with them is we wouldn't have a water plant anymore, we wouldn't have water plant operators, we wouldn't have our own water anymore. We just have a distribution system. So they calculated out on current water rates from Champlain, and they got the rates what they would charge us. And the treatment fees would be approximately $850,000 a year, and expand to possibly $1.5 million per year to buy it from them. So there's just no savings at all. In fact, it would probably cost more. So anyways, that's where we are right now. We're doing more refining on looking at the exact systems that we would use, the membrane filter or the other backwash filter, the packaging, and also looking at funding sources. because there's possibly some grants available for part of this. And they said, if the board goes along with all these different things, you know, if it all meets our standards that we need, that we're concerned with, or meets our concerns, we could possibly be breaking ground in 2021. Not this next summer, but the summer after that, everything would be in line to do it. It would take about 8 months to put it up, if everything goes well. And then, of course, the old plant behind the village office will be torn down, and there's, would probably be, they'd probably keep the 2 wells that we pump the water out of the lake now, and those would remain, it would just be like a pump house there, just a small building, you know, maybe 20 by 20 or so. And that would pump the water up to the water treatment plant adjacent to the water tower, and then from there into the water tower. So that's the thumbnail sketch of what they talked about. And then the board has a copy of the proposal. So, any questions? That was just an update. Yes,
Is there,
sir. Don't,
Sorry.
yeah.
Is Barton and LaJudas gonna look into grant money for us, or are we?
Yes.
They are going
That's
to,
part of the,
as part of the deal?
yeah,
Okay, thank you.
that's right.
Mr. Mayor, has the village actually got a official quotation from the town and village of Champlain on the yearly cost of providing 400,000 gallons of water?
Barton LaJudas got that.
Because when I talked to the town of Champlain the other day, they know nothing about that, about providing an actual number.
That's what Barton, I'm going by what they gave us.
Right, but
I have
the
not-
providers of the water is the town and village of Champlain, the official provider. Barton Hughes is just a consulting company, making
No, but
estimates.
they got their, they told me they got the numbers from Champlain.
All right, I just talked to town supervisor, and he indicated nothing of the sort.
No. I'm telling you what they told me. All right, any other questions, comments?
Just as a sidebar curiosity question, you held that meeting, and I very much would like to have attended it, because, as you're aware of, I'm chair of Water and Sewer, and I wasn't included on the list to attend. So any future.
That was
meeting-
not intentional,
Okay,
because
so
I would have rather had you there, in fact. Brian Pelkey was, or Brian Chelano was supposed to be there, and it was his day off, so it ended up with just the administrator and myself, and I would have rather had at least one trustee up there.
So I can feel rest assured that I'll get invited to the next meeting?
Yes, you will.
Thank you.
Yes, for sure. I wanted you there.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a proxy resolution for the NIPA meeting. This is for the Power Authority. Whereas the Board of Trustees of the Village of Rouses appoints a municipal member of the New York Municipal Power Agency, and whereas in accordance with the bylaws of the New York Municipal Power Agency, each municipal member may cast one vote on each transaction properly brought before this meeting. Now there be resolved that Mayor be and is hereby designated as the accredited delegate of the Village of Rouses Point. And then move that to the floor.
I make a motion to appoint the mayor as the delegate.
Any have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay, now, I also wanted to remind you, this meeting is going to be on October 30th in Syracuse. If any of the board wants to attend it, I'm going to attend it, but if you'd like to attend it, you can, just tell the administrators to sign you up for it. Anybody want to go to it? It looks like you have to get there, I'm gonna arrive on the 29th at night, and then it starts the next morning at 8 or 9 o'clock. And then it gets over with, and then I'm gonna continue on from there, so I'll only need one night, but if anybody else wants to go to it, you can. The meeting is all on the 30th, all the stuff they're gonna be doing. All right, like I say, if you do, just call her. Now, we have a